Morning, Prof.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Good morning and karibu sana.
Asante.
Thank you for being in the room today. We have a number of things to look into. The politics of the day are a big issue because far be it from us to say that, well, leave politics over there. It affects everything that we do every day. So let's have a conversation this morning. But before we do, Dennis takes us to Madagascar.
Yes, Madagascar, also known as a vanilla country, because they are the largest producers and exporters of natural vanilla in the world. Also the fourth largest island in the world, and also their animals. 90% of the world animals can only be found in the country, including the ring-tailed lemur. The proverb that we get from Madagascar this morning: advice is a stranger. If he's welcomed, he stays for the night. If not, he leaves the same day. How would you interpret it?
You know one thing, and thank you very much for welcoming me again.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like guessing things that are not right. And that's why I've come up with this book,
Yeah.
which I brought to sign for you as a matter of appreciation for what KTN has done for me.
Yeah.
And especially with the likes of Gideon Moye. Thanking you guys. But you know, guesswork, as a teacher, guessing stuff is very misleading, and I'm not guessing on that one.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
With some of your trade of Brit Leo.
Yeah.
But it's
Wow.
yeah. But it speaks to advice when it's given, and when people take advice and work on it, what that would do to their lives, either to change their lives if you take it, or you don't, repercussions thereafter. But asante sana.
Yeah, but on the same footnote, there's some advice that you don't have to take.
Yes.
It's very
Indeed.
misleading,
Yeah.
especially the conservative mindset that has been archaic. Is could I categorize it? The Belize mindset,
Yeah.
a mindset that has been indoctrinated into a doctrine for centuries, is very misleading, and that's why you see poverty in some of our societies. You find people have been believing in the same mindset, lived in that mindset, have been going the same direction, and for the last, like my grandmother used to go to a particular church for all those years with the rosaries, praying in the morning, in the evening, eating, and it is like a pan of psychophancy. You can't get out of that pan, and in that case, we need some kind of liberalization of the mindset.
See, that right there is the interpretation.
There it is. And you thought that you couldn't.
You couldn't.
But you actually can.
You actually did. Yeah.
Well, let's look at political strongholds this morning, because that seems to be the chatter about at the moment. That is Kenya still, and should it still be operating with political strongholds which take a tribal, and in this case it's not necessarily a negative thing, which take a tribal connotation. Right now, we're talking about political strongholds having come off of the Olkalaukan by-election, and people are talking about a mountain that must be united towards a particular goal. We're going into this weekend where, again, looking into Western Kenya, the Mulembe Nation is being asked to come together and stand behind Edwin Sifuna. We're looking at a number of people who've defected to the Linda Mwananchi group. Long-time ODM member Tim Wanyonyi, long-time Western's member of Parliament, goes. Wangamati moves. Wamunyinyi moves. Bifwoli moves. George Wajackoyah stood on a podium last weekend and said it was necessary for everybody to come together. Are there needs for strongholds?
I don't think so.
No?
That's what I just spoke about, legitimization of illegalities in terms of the conservatives. We are going back to where we came from, and that is not going to add value, whereas the world is progressing. If you look at Europe, you look at Britain, they are moved away from the conservative strongholds, if you may use that word, where the English, the Scottish, and the Irish have abandoned those kind of sphereholds, have moved into liberalization to actually absorb the younger generation. We have an explosive industry today of the younger mindsets that do not even say or even go or even speak or even identify their originalities, especially kids born in Nairobi today, the last 30 years, do not speak Luya. They speak Sheng. They are Nairobians. There is a cluster of young generation that we have to look into if we are going back to those tribal cocoons, then the preamble is very simple. Let the Luyas go to the preamble of the Constitution and then agitate for their own country so that they can speak Luya and have Luya fiefdoms there. If the Kikuyus want to do the same under Gachagua, they can go and cut off the mountain and stay. But where will the young generation go, the Wajackoyahs that we have today? So I'm really against that kind of ideological reprogrammation of the mindset, and that's why we have to produce a true Kenyan identity pegged on the younger technological identity. We want to move into industrial revolution, technical revolution. We do not want to go into cohorts of tribalism. So that I am a Luya from Mumias. So you want me now to go to Western Kenya to say, sasa sisi wa Luya, lazima tukae hivi. Come on, I'm not part of it, will not be, has not been, I don't even intend to.
Is there a mistake though? Because even the constitution itself then recognizes our different ethnic diversities that then makes Kenya what it is today. And there is also a saying that mtu ni watu na mtu anatoka mahali. You know, there's somewhere where everybody comes from. And that support in one way or the other usually starts from the people that know you. And with that, it has been used as saying my stronghold are my people that I associate with. Mimi ni Mwanga, so the Wangas are my people who then support me. How do we change that narrative and say that as you go forth and seek for these political offices, there needs to be a realization that you are getting there to serve Kenyans? Because even a member of parliament from the Wanga kingdom will get to parliament to serve the people of Kenya and represent, including the Wangas and everybody else in that, say, constituency.
Looking at that particular point from the international standstill, and that's why I'm staring at this book without any kind of prejudice or bias, which has taken me 6.5 years. And I will sign this for you. I will sign for you another one. This in itself answers that question. Legality in illegalities. A doctorate that took me 6.5 years, looking at habits and behaviors of people in the American nation and the rights of certain ethnic minorities versus the majority. I think that's what we should be looking at, as opposed to my tribe, my agenda, my people kind of philosophy. You'll find out that the dichotomy does not add value at all. We have moved on. If you look at Microsoft and the technology that has been introduced in terms of developmental mindset, the AL kind of culture today, and then we are now bringing in this rhythm of my people. When the Constitution's preamble says, we the people, then you are becoming the enemy of the Constitution, because we need to uphold that togetherness that came in as a result of us coming as a team, deciding to do stuff for the whole nation. Now, if we are going to go back to pre-colonial days by saying that the colonialists in this country killed Kenyans, then who has the right of who has legitimacy to stay in Kenya? Are those the people who fought for independence, lost their blood, shed their blood, and made us to be independent? Don't they have legitimate rights to say that, okay, as we fought to eliminate them, therefore we have more platitude than those who did not fight? So hii mambo ya kusema ya kwamba sisi wa Kalenjini tulikuwa tunateswa na Wakikuyu, sisi wa Luya tunateswa na Wajaluo, and that's the paradox that has the paradigm that is shifting towards the old Octagorian politicians, those who have been there in politics and what have you for survival tactics. I don't think whether the Wajackoyahs of today want to be involved. Education has really pruned us to think differently. Technology has asserted its principle to make us look at the economic emancipation independently, into independent entrepreneurship, And therefore, we should be talking of developmental values, not archaic, historical, tribalistic kind of aptitudes.
But the thing is about whether you go back in history or whether you're living in present day, is that people like what they know. People like what they know. And people are grounded usually in where they come from. That whether somebody is young or old, the Kenyan reality is that the very first port of call is where somebody is from. Now, can we say that people now coalescing around an idea of someone that they identify with is an archaic way of thought?
Especially if it's misleading, outrageous, and monopolistic kind of mindset where you're saying, we the people of the Mulima. That alone is treasonable. There's nothing wrong with identifying yourself with your traditional concepts. But you cannot come up and divide and say, sasa hii serikali, sisi tutakula hii na nyinyi mtakula hii. What about the Mijikendas and the Pokomos of this country? The Kisis, wherever they come from. The minority lawyers, wherever we are. That is a wrong trajectory. And that's why I emulate the late Mwalimu Julius Nyerere when he came up with Ujamaa and unified Tanzania, Tanganyika into ujamaa wa Tanzania, ili mambo ya lugha ya Tanzania, lugha ya Kiswahili was used. The language was used as a medium of operation to weed out trajectories of tribalism. And that's why in Tanzania, huwezi kumjua huyu jamaa ni Mdodoma ama anatoka wapi. Mtanzania anasema mimi ni Mtanzania na sisi tunatoka Tanzania. Lakini Mkenya atakuuliza kwanza, wewe unatoka wapi? Wewe ni Mkikuyu? Mkikuyu wa wapi? Wanyeri? Come on. For God's sake. Let me come up with the younger generation and the way they are following me. And maybe we can come up with some solution to this country. Because when Uhuru Kenyatta was the president, he warned Kenyans about a population explosion of the younger people with the poor planning, poor educational planning, unemployment. This is where we should be focused on. What are we going to do to tame the younger generation and create them into an industrial machinery? Rather than now talking about tribalism and you are evading the problem that you're having in this country. Population explosion into the youth. What are we going to do?
What will it take for the current crop of leadership, or rather the political class that we have today, where they resort to their ethnic backgrounds to propel them into national discourse? What will it take for Kenyans to also start looking at a leader not as my leader because they are my tribe, but that there's a leader out there to serve the 55 million Kenyans? What must we do differently?
The thing is, and I'm sorry to use these words, and I'll stand by them. If you look at West African countries, because of anti-colonialism stance and whatever governments came up, the military came in and disorganized some of those countries for years, and people learned the hard way, especially in Nigeria and Ghana, where Rawlings stood up one day and said, enough of this is enough. He lined up some of those former presidents and eliminated them, and that's why you see Ghana being what it is, even though that's the wrong trajectory for me to take. Kenya has not experienced any kind of nationalistic call like we have in Burkina Faso, where people have been told, look, lay down your tools, lay down your mindset, let us go this way. Sometimes force is good, and benevolent dictatorship is good. That's why we need an iron fist president who can come in, a leader who can come in and put those things aside. Because now they have started this trajectory in education. You saw what happened in Moi University, where some political leaders came and said, Moi University is for the Kalenjins. If you are a non-Kalenjin, you cannot lead this institution. And that's why the university collapsed. So, as you correctly said, the mindset we have today needs to be reversed. And we are asking the clergy, especially modern liberal clergy mindset, not the octagorian, conservative, winged mindsets, to come up and talk to the population. The clergy is failing us. They're now putting up pulpits for political indoctrination. You'll find people now running to the church to politicize the churches. And that's where we are saying no. The church should come up in the forefront and also help with the like-minded people to find out, to engineer a society that will be beyond ethnic mindsets. But you'll find that some of the clergy people, religious leaders, are so much intertwined into tribalism. Kama sio wetu, hatutaki mambo kama hii. That's where the rain starts falling. Clergy has failed us. They talk of morality, but they preach what? Religious leaders, including Muslims, they should come up and say, now, where do we go from today? What went wrong? Do we change the doctrines of clergyism? I don't want to go into religion, because when you mention religion, you will find out what happened between the Protestants and the Catholics in the UK.
Is there something wrong with the people who are of like mind, based on where they come from and who they identify with, coming together to join other people around an idea? Is there anything wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that, especially when you look at the situation in the country today, where people have now said, you know what, if this is what's going on, where one tribe or where the leaders are predominantly engaging their tribes into battlegrounds in terms of economic battlegrounds, we have to bring our people, give them jobs so that we create some kind of audacity, of identity. An example being very simple, the police in Nairobi. We have 63 police stations, right? If I'm not wrong. Go to the OCS, officer commanding those, the majority of those police stations. The majority are from a particular tribe. So people look at that and say, hey, wait a minute. How comes that Kenyans are not being balanced in terms of this? I will maybe go back to my tribe and get some kind of refuge. But is that the way forward?
I mean, you know, when you look at where we find ourselves as a country, so if you are from this community and you believe in certain beliefs within that community, when you go back and speak to them, you speak to their hearts. And that is the premise upon which you find many begin from, the part where my people understand me and I understand them better. Now, if they do support me and propel me to the national discourse, I'm equally able to speak on that national platform to be able to champion for their rights, champion for things that go to them, together with others who come from different communities to form these National Assembly that represents Kenya, that gives Kenya an opportunity to move forward. One asks the question, what is wrong with that? And if there is nothing wrong with that, how do we change the conversation not to be from negative ethnicity to be we embrace different ethnicities for this country to move forward, because we equally can't run away from where it is we come from?
First of all, we should redeem ourselves from such fossil ideas. Those ideas, ideological mindsets, are fossil. They believe that they're entitled. They believe that they are pure, they're messiahs. They are drawing what we call fiefdoms, if not... I'll give an example of what happened in Nigeria, especially during Ojukwu's time. When Ojukwu came, Emeka Ojukwu, I'm very close to the family. The wife is a senator in Nigeria, and I've had a lot of discussions with the Ojukwu family wanting to find out what happened. Yes, you'll find out that the Igbos came to say that they were being marginalized in their own country, especially when the oil was being actually directed to the north, and the machineries and the oil industry was being taken away from them. That they were justified in a way because of economic reasoning. But us, where is our justification? What justifies me to go back to Luyaland, Mumias, Kakamega, Wanga, and tell the people of Wanga that we have been marginalized enough, Mumias Sugar died, Pan Paper died, so we rally behind me so that tunaenda kukaa kwa table. The kaa kwa table kind of politics or mindset.
Or maybe not to go sit at the table, but to actually take up a position of leadership. What's wrong with that? And maybe it's not coming from a place of being marginalized, but people are saying that you can actually have a significant voice in coming together and actually seeing some kind of change in the country.
Yeah, but to some extent, I'll agree with you. But to some extent, I'll differ with you. pegged on what the current government is doing today. You are only given a ministerial post or a senior post pegged on your loyalty, and if you're going to become a sycophant of saying Ruto, Ruto, Ruto. Yes, that one, those who want can be. I personally refused to be entangled in that when I was offered this and that. I refused on principle that I was not now going to be used to manipulate my people. And that's exactly what's happening in Kakamega today, in Western Kenya today, where you'll find a leader, an elected leader standing up today and saying, well, we as now, we must vote in the same basket so that we go on the table. Just say, me, I'm asking you to come into this basket so that I can go and sit on that table for my own personal vendetta, for my own personal aggrandizement, for my own personal enrichment, for my own personal corruption. That is wrong. But if you stand and say, for example, now I will say, I'm given a ministerial appointment. I'll tell the president, but what about the Mijikendas? What about the Somalis? What about this other tribe that has not seen this before? Why can't you give it to them? So that we can actually have a unifying kind of discussion.
But Professor, if you look at even the United States that you quoted a little bit earlier, you look at even during the electioneering period, and there is always those blocks. There is the white vote, there is the black, the Hispanics, you know, and all those blocks as well tend to also move in that light, where you'd find many would say if the black vote gives say candidate X their vote, there is a high possibility of winning the election. It is not different from what Kenyans are doing today. So it is the Luhya nation who believe in their culture, believe in their history, come together to say, these are our ideas, these are our agenda and our concerns, and we want to move together so that we have an upper hand in that house to fight for what it is we want. Is there anything wrong with that?
Well, there is nothing wrong if we have proper devolution, where you have regional governments, where people can agitate on their tribal stuff, like we have that is going on in India, where you have the upper house and the lower house, and at the same time also we have regional governments with regional ministers, where people actually feel proper representation, tribal representation, ethnicity, and what have you. That works well there. But you cannot also look into, if you look into the United States, we look into a different diaspora, where the rule of law prevails, and everything is tailored towards the Constitution of the United States, which has been amended 14 times. If you look at the preamble and the first convention, first article of the United States Constitution, it says, and it lays down the formulas of engagement. But here, that is not there. There is no parameter in observation of the rule of law. You will find out people ganging up or being ganged up, like what is happening in Kisumu. Kisumu was the most peaceful city in Kenyatta 1 administration, in Moi administration, Kibaki administration, and Kenyatta 2 administration. What is now happening in Kisumu today? It's become a gangfare city, where political legitimacy is tailored towards Gunism. A person, when you go to Kisumu now to address the people of Kisumu, you must actually profess particular slogan. 1 term, 2 term. Where is that coming from? So if we look at Kisumu, which was one of the most peaceful cities in the country, turning into a criminal gang-oriented, whereby any political rallies or anybody who wants to manifest his political ideas must go through certain transitions which are illegal. You cannot compare that with the United States, which is pegged on the rule of law.
All right, let's take a break at this point. We're talking with the Roots Party leader, Professor George Wajackoyah, and we're looking at whether strongholds have any place in Kenya's politics. It would appear as though people are all going in a particular direction this weekend. So maybe strongholds are still the thing that people are holding on to strongly.
It doesn't need mature. If anything eats hemp, it dies because of its ingredients. It puts nutrients in the soil. And what is hemp used for? Where is Israel today, and what is the economy of Israel, and why is it that Israel's economy has become one of the best in the world? It's all because of hemp and the technicalities involved, the tech industry, which is pegged on hemp. So let us grow hemp And once we grow hemp, we shall pay off the debts in this country. Let us rear snakes for export. Let us rear snakes, harvest venom. 1 gram of venom is 600,000 Kenya shillings. Let us rear snakes for purposes of medicinal values and prevention. We export its meat to the Chinese. It's a delicacy. And then the skins, the snake skins, can be used to beautify men and women in terms of textile industry. Kitui, which is the Texas of Kenya, Baringo, and Kilifi have enough snakes which can actually make us have income. But when you go to religious men, they were like, we on Satan. If you go to America, this is all used. If you go to Italy, they're even importing. They don't have a place to do what have you. We can work out a formula whereby we can improve the economy of this country within 1 year, rather than borrowing and depending on technical experts and coming in with the ridiculous figures and making our country to be overdated. We can do it. We can do away with that. And with the introduction of death penalty, killing all these guys, Kenya will be free.
Professor George Wajackoyah is the Roots Party leader. He's got some radical ideas in terms of what Kenya needs, and that you build so that you get out of debt and that you go in one direction. Well, thank you for being here with us this morning and looking into how the country will progress and your contribution. Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.